Hello and welcome to A Baker's Passion. I'm Ray Madursky, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to put together a really wonderful French apple tart. The thing that's unique about this version of the French apple tart is that it's in puff pastry and it does have a lattice on top. It's the Tarte Quadrillees. And the thing that's really neat is if you looked at the previous video for the d'Artois, the filling is exactly the same. We do the shell in a tart pan and then we fill the bottom of the shell with some apple compote. Then we put sauteed apples on top, but then there's a lattice over the top. So it's really a spectacular, wonderful visual presentation. So this will be the first of the actual rolled out tarts. The next tart that I will demonstrate will be the Tarte aux Pommes rissolette, and that's apples, and again it's all variation slightly. We're getting more and more modern as we do each of these desserts, and the next sauteed apple tart will be eighths of apples, but I'm going to stand them up in the tart shell. And we're going to put a little bit of almond cream in the bottom and then bake them so you get this amazing visual thing when the tart is done. So let's get started with our Tarte aux Pommes Quadrillees and forming our wonderful puff pastry into a pastry shell. Now that the apple's been peeled, I just cut it right in half. Then I use a melon bowler, just remove the tough part of the core that remains. You can see in here there's a little bit of seed, so I'll get that all out. And there's this center that does tend to be a little fibrous and it's tougher than the rest of the apple. Okay, so there are my apples. And now these are going to be used for the d'Artois and for the Tarte Quadrillees. So I'll show you how to cut them. I just coarsely dice them. I just go down, 4 cuts, and then just come along and cut again. And there you go. You have nice diced apples. What I've done here is I've chopped my apples to make my apple compote. I'm making a really large batch because I'm using it for 3 different desserts, but this is the apples, the sugar, pieces of lemon zest, and you can see the apples are just coarsely cut, pieces about so big. And I'm going to put a sprinkle of water on it, put it on a very low heat, and I will allow it to cook probably for an hour to 2 hours, somewhere in there. And at some point, when a lot of moisture has built up in the pan, I'll take a potato masher, crush what's in there, but I really want it to caramelize. And when we get near the end point, I'll show you that again, okay? Okay, I have butter and sugar in the bottom of a pan, and I'm just going to turn it into caramel. And then I'm going to put my apple dice into it and just toss it for a minute or 2, add a few tablespoons of rum, and that's it. Okay, I'm going to throw the apples back in because the caramel's reduced. Just toss them and then they're done. Okay, we want to get the caramel coating them, and then I'm going to throw in a splash of dark rum. Now I'm going to roll the dough to line the tart pan for a Tarte Quadrillees. And this is a tart that has a top and a bottom. and I'll show you how I'm going to do the top pastry. We tend to do this as the only French tart I've ever seen that has a lattice. So I'm going to use a nifty gadget and create a lattice. So use your rolling pin. Gently tap the dough in all directions. It really just makes it more malleable and a little bit easier to roll out. Generously floured my surface, but we are going to make sure we remove all of the excess flour. Now this is going to line my tart mold, so I've got to make it a little bit larger than the diameter of my mold. So I'm going to continue rolling. Now I'm really working, because we're going to use this to line the tart pan. I'm really trying to get it as close to about 1/16 of an inch thick as I can. And that's about great. Once again, all of the extra flour has to be brushed off the dough. The dough is actually really lovely. It's really light. It's not fighting me at all, so we've done a really great job. Now this is the bottom, so this will get docked. For the tart, I'll also dock the top piece and then cut it into the lattice. Okay, so I'm going to put this on a sheet lined with wax paper in the cold for about a 2-hour rest. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to do the top piece of dough. Okay, so the dough has really chilled and relaxed. This is going to be the top of the tart. It's very cold, so I'm going to take my nifty gadget and run it, and don't start at the bottom and don't start at the top. Always leave a little bit of space so that we can really get it to do its thing. And here we go again. And this will make a magnificent, easy lattice crust for the top of our tart. Now basically all we have to do is start stretching the dough. If it's not stretching easily, get it back in the fridge. That's all we have to do. So I'm going to put this, actually going to trim the dough here. And here. And see what I'm doing? I'm just opening up all the little cuts that the pastry wheel has made. And then I'm going to put it back with them slightly spread out onto the tray and back into the cold for a bit. Now I'm going to take my tart pan, which is lightly buttered. I'm going to take my chilled piece of pastry, and I'm going to just gently line the pan with the rolled pastry. And just lay it out roughly, then go and use your fingers to really press it exactly into the shape of the mold. Now we do want to leave a tiny little bit of extra because we're going to put the top lattice on this once we assemble and fill the pastry. So what I like to do make sure you've got the dough really pressed into all the edges and corners. And then I just take a pair of kitchen scissors and cut right around the dough. And I'll show you in a second how to do that. I have designated kitchen scissors. If you don't, just take a paring knife and trim around by hand. These are my kitchen scissors. I'm leaving just the smallest amount of extra dough. It's probably a little bit less than 1/2 of an inch that I'm leaving on there as a lip. It'll make it easier, and you'll see later when we put everything together to shape our tart with the upper lattice crust. So there we are. Now we're going to get this back into the fridge for another hour. So this is going to go back and chill. And what I wanted to do is show you how to handle your scraps, because I will show you at some point what we can do with these scraps. These are never thrown away, but you always layer them. Take them, just fold them on top of each other, gently press, and then just wrap them in some plastic wrap. And we will use this because this is great, valuable puff pastry. Now I'm filling our tart shell. Again, about 1/4 of an inch layer. We've had a nice about 1 hour and 15-minute rest. And we're putting about 1/4 of an inch deep layer of the compote. And we're going to top this, just like with our d'Artois, we're going to top this with some sauteed chunks of apple. And you can see I really cooked. These are Granny Smith apples, actually, I used this time. The recipe, I say you could use Granny's and mix them with Fiji or anything that you like. Pink Lady, Roma, any great flavored, well-textured apple. But all I was able to get is visit to the store where the Granny Smith. So this is Granny Smith. And so are my sauteed pieces. So now we're going to put these in. Just really simply. Nice simple layer, nothing too fancy, too complicated. Okay, so let's see if we can get this looking good. Anywhere, if you do use one of these gadgets where the dough doesn't cut, just take the point of a paring knife and open it up. As you can see there. The idea is that we want it to look a little bit like our American apple pies. And this is pretty unique for the French because they just generally do not do this sort of thing. And you'll see you could also just use your fingers the way I'm doing now. Actually, this might be the better way to do it. And all of this wonderful dough becomes trimmings that we're going to maybe even spend an entire short video, and I'll show you how to play with them. So there we go. There is that amazing Tarte Quadrille. Just as beautiful as could be. Now, here, light glazing with an egg. So just across the top. And then we're going to go into a preheated 425 degree oven. And I think this is going to be absolutely magnificent. Alright, so it's going to go back in the fridge till my oven's preheated. Here is the finished Tarte aux Pommes Quadrillees. And as you can see, it's just glorious. It's simple and very elegant, and it's probably the inspiration for Le Notres d'Artois. Well, I hope the video on how to assemble the Tarte aux Pommes Quadrillees was helpful, and I really hope you'll try it. Again, I've tried to arrange these demonstrations with puff pastry in kind of a sequence. So the first thing we make is the d'Artois, which is the easiest. The next thing we go to this particular tart, and then we just kind of build on from there. I really hope you'll try the puff pastry because it's kind of a foray into a whole area of pastry that's just incredible, and that's working with laminated doughs, and that's the croissant, the Danish, and all of these wonderful things. So this is the easy way to kind of get your hands into it. So for A Baker's Passion, I'm Ray Madursky, and please visit my website, my blog, at www.abakerspassion.com. See what you think of the recipes, and give me any feedback. I certainly really want the feedback to know what you would like to see, and if my videos and my recipes are helpful to you. So now for my favorite part of the day. I get to sample some of this amazing tart. And I can tell you my mouth is watering as I look at it. Oh my gosh, it is so delicious. It's not sweet the way apple pie tends to be. It's much more subtle with the sugar, but the puff pastry and kind of the lemon zest that was in the apple compote and the sauteed apples, everything comes together perfectly. So this is really one you can stun everybody with. So take care, have a lot of fun, and please try the recipes. Also, I would ask you to please like my videos on YouTube. So for A Baker's Passion, have a great day and enjoy your baking.